Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, welcome to another CW webinar. I'm Wanderson and me and my team are here to bring you the main highlights of the World Cement Bag and Bagging Equipment Industry and Forecast 2021 update. For today's presentation, I would like to introduce myself, Wanderson Teixeira, and my colleague Vasco Teixeira, both of us junior business analysts at CW Group, also both of us based here in Portugal. For today's agenda, we will start with an introduction of our company, what it is that we do, and what we have to offer, and of course, go here with you through the main highlights of this update for this report. So bear here with me, please, for a brief moment while I present you our company. So CW Group is present across three distinct verticals: advisory, research, and media. Under the advisory, CW works with major global consultancies and leading institutions. This includes the World Bank and funds on projects. We also provide consulting and advisory expertise on a diverse product portfolio. To give you a brief example about it, a recent sample of advisory projects provided include a complete business process analysis for an online art gallery website, and more recently, a detailed study on circular economy for the MENA and West Africa regions for the World Bank. Now, under the research umbrella, CW focused on cement demand globally, as well as detailed industry country reports. We provide historical as well as forecasts for markets in a variety of products, including our main products, the Trade Prices Report, which we call TPR, and Volumes Forecast Report, which we call VFR. We also provide commodity price assessments for cement, clinker, pet coke, and coal. Last but not least, under the media umbrella, you can have online access to our VASE database. You can subscribe to newsletters for topics of interest, including cement, building materials, paper and pulp, and bulk. We also have some industry-specific meetings, which, of course, due to the COVID, are happening online. But hopefully, as soon as possible, we will be back to be in person. So, without further ado, let us dive into today's presentation, the World Cement Bag and Bagging Equipment in Industry and Forecast 2021 update. So what does this report include? This report includes a detailed outlook in the cement bag and bagging equipment forecast. And when we look at the cement bags, we are looking at all different kinds of bags. While for cement equipment, we are looking at bagging, palletizers, wrappers, and loaders. Our forecast is based on a global and regional basis, of course, with a detailed analysis of particular countries and regions of interest. For this project, the foundation basis is our VFR, our Volume Forecast Report, which is a biannual report that CW provides, with the extended version for this year coming out early in November. We say that this report is the foundation because we use the analysis and research to look at the cement capacity forecast and how that will impact the cement bagging requirements. We also do a detailed analysis of brownfield and greenfield capacity expansions, which also become an important element of the cement bag and bagging equipment report. And our report also includes company profiles for the main cement bag and bagging equipment manufacturers. Of course, for a more detailed analysis of the content in this report, you can enter this link below on this page. Now, to start off, I wanted to take a few moments to give you a brief overview of the methodology that we apply to this report. As I mentioned before, we use the volume forecast report cement capacity database being as the foundation for this report. Then we also conduct multiple primary interviews with major players across regions to verify and, of course, cross-verify our assumptions. This is then analyzed statistically using multiple tools to make sure that the data is coherent and represents an accurate degree of confidence for all of the subsections. Then we consolidate this data based on market size and segment for a better understanding of the global market. A similar approach is also done for cement bags, with this one in particular being driven by the actual cement production capacity and utilization rates across major countries. Now, I wanted to present you an overview of the global economic scenario for this year to start off. So, according to IMF's latest economic outlook, which was released in July, the global economy is expected to see a growth of 6% this year, remaining fairly unchanged from the April update. In a regional perspective, there were offsetting revisions. Prospects for the emerging market and developing economies have been marked down for 2021, especially for emerging Asia, which saw a downward revision of 1.1% from their latest update, the April release. In India, for instance, growth prospects have been revised downwards following the severe second wave of COVID cases in the period of March and May. Similar trend has been seen in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, the Asian 5 group, as a more recent wave of new infections have been dragging down activity in those countries. In China, IMF's 2021 forecast was revised down 0.3 percentage points on a scaling back of public investment and overall fiscal support. Meanwhile, the advanced economies have seen an upward revision of 0.5% and now are expected to see a growth of 5.6% in 2021. This is a reflection of an expected further normalization in the second half of 2021 as vaccine rollout proceeds and with additional fiscal support. In the US economy, the expected improvement this year is mostly due to the impact of the anticipated legislation boosting infrastructure investment and strengthening the social safety net in the second half of 2021. Meanwhile, in Japan, IMF downgraded its projected growth for 2021 as a consequence of tighter restrictions in the first half of the year as caseloads picked up. In Japan, on a more positive note, we expect to see a stronger rebound in the second half of the year as the vaccination proceeds and the economy finally fully reopens. Similar trends to that are expected to be seen in France, Germany, Italy, and Spain later this year. In terms of growth forecasts for other regions, we also have been seeing a revised trend for this year, largely reflecting the stronger than anticipated outturns in the first quarter. For example, Latin America and the Caribbean forecasts have been upgraded mostly due to the upward revisions in Brazil and Mexico, while in the Middle East and Central Asia, an upward revision was due to a robust activity in some of the countries, including Morocco and Pakistan. Last, of course, but not least, Sub-Saharan Africa. We have a forecast for this year remaining unchanged from the April's update, with an upgrade for South Africa, following a strong positive surprise in the first quarter offset by downward revisions in other countries, as worsening pandemic developments in Sub-Saharan Africa are expected to weigh on the region's recovery this year. In our next slide, we dive into the market overview, and we have a brief description of our cement demand and capacity for the last 5 years and the forecast period. As you can see, cement demand from 2016 to 2021 saw a small increase of 0.2%, mostly driven by increases in Asia ex-China and North America. After a decline in demand in major economies last year as a consequence of the pandemic, we expect a demand recovery from 2021 onwards. Now, in terms of production capacity, we can see a much smaller growth rate when we compare to cement consumption, mostly as a result of capacity rationalization in China and limited capacity coming up. In terms of capacity additions, we expect them to occur in regions including Africa, Asia ex-China, Eastern Europe, Latin America, and the Middle East, especially in India and surrounding Southeast Asian countries. Now, I would like to pass the presentation to my colleague, Vasco Teixeira. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anderson, and welcome everyone. I will now start the discussion of the cement bag equipment market. So in order to have a better understanding of the market, I would like to localize it first in the cement plant. And the dispatch line is the last stage of the cement plant in terms of equipment. And a full dispatch line has 4 segments: a filler, a palletizer, a wrapper, and a loading segment. When it comes to the global cement bagging equipment market insights, we can see that the market growth is expected to experience a slight decrease of 0.3% between the years of 2021 and 2026. And there are wide regional divergences in the cement bag equipment market. These divergences can be explained by the regional divergences in demand, the bagging systems in each region, and also the size of the bags that are used. So in terms of demand, we see that Asia and Africa are the demand drivers for this industry sector. In terms of the bagging system, in the North America and European markets, full lines are widely established, whereas in Asia ex-China, the market usually just contains the bagging filler system. And when looking at the bag size can be defined by the market needs as well as the response to regulations. And an example of this is in Brazil, which in 2018, it signed the regulation in which the bag size needed to be reduced from 50 kilograms to 25 kilograms. And regulations like this mean that there is a necessity for investment in bagging systems through upgrades of the equipment or also new machines. So now moving on to what is shaping the global cement bagging equipment market, we have negative and positive factors. To start with the negative factors, these factors impacting the overall trend in the cement bagging equipment industry are the shift to bulk dispatch, overcapacity in key markets, and the long lifespan of existing machines. So the first negative factor, the shift to bulk dispatch, is due to the construction of large-scale infrastructure occurring globally. So these new infrastructures are being built in Asia and Africa, and also being rebuilt in North America. However, there are some exceptions to this, such as markets like India, in which both large-scale infrastructures are being built. However, there are also residential housing construction, which requires bagged cement. The other negative factor is overcapacity, which has been plaguing most markets due to ambitious additions to capacity based on sustained demand growth. Even in markets where demand is growing, capacity utilization is likely to still remain a concern. And lastly, most of the equipment has a long lifespan, and if maintained well, doesn't need replacement, as cement bagging equipment is designed to endure the harsh environments in cement plants. On the other hand, we have the positive factors, and the drivers for cement bagging include a general increase in labor as well as safety costs at cement plants, which result in a requirement for more automation and less human involvement. So there's opportunity for more investment in equipment. Secondly, with producers in key markets void to continue demand due to strong project pipelines, allow these projects to look at new equipment to improve production efficiency. And lastly, safety regulations imposed by authorities can be a driver for more automation and new equipment. So now moving on to an overview of the market shares by the cement bagging equipment sector, we can see that bag fillers have the largest market share, but are expected to lose some market share to wrappers from 2021 to 2026. The demand for wrappers is expected to increase at a CAGR of around 1%. The reason for bag fillers to lose some share can be explained by its durability, because every bagging system line requires a bag filler, which usually lasts for around 40 years. However, palletizers and wrappers are not as durable, and therefore the acquisition of these two latter equipments is more frequent than bag fillers. Bag fillers are also losing market share due to the shift from bag to bulk, largely associated with the announcement of new infrastructure projects. And lastly, on the other hand, the growing labor costs and new regulations on cement bag transportation and worker safety represent opportunities for growth in the palletizing equipment sector. So in terms of the regional overview of the cement bagging equipment, we see different trends in developed markets and in developing markets. So to start, in developed markets, including North America and Western Europe, we see that there are a few capacity additions as equipment sales depend on upgrades, and most of the dispatch lines are already equipped with palletizers and wrappers. On the other hand, in developing markets, capacity growth is decelerating. Palletizers' popularity depend on the market, and the bagging dispatch lines are less complete, many times just containing bag fillers and loaders. So in China in particular, we see that in order to reduce overcapacity, the rate of retirement is now higher than the new capacity additions, as new facilities that replace outdated capacity provide the demand for bagging equipment. Asia ex-China, on the other hand, takes the lead in terms of new capacity additions and new facilities, and rising labor costs create opportunities for more bagging equipment. In terms of Africa, palletizing and wrapping are not as widespread due to inexpensive labor. And in terms of new capacity additions, these are still frequent, but growth has been stabilized. And lastly, in Latin America, palletizers are popular in Brazil and in the Argentinian market, and less so in Mexico. And overall, new capacities have been slowed down in the region for the past 5 years. Now, moving on to cement bag market, we can see that cement bag market is more dependent on actual production than it is on installed capacity. And choice for bag type is very different on a regional basis. For example, given that the craft paper prices, woven and PP bags are cheaper, these are more popular in African markets. In India, the availability of plastic for recycling and restrictions on tree cutting makes woven bags more attractive. And additionally, woven bags allow companies to have higher quality prints and logos, and these become a benefit to attract more buyers in a very competitive market. And lastly, in the next 5 years, cement bags market size is expected to contract by around 0.1%, driven by mostly contractions in China and Eastern Europe and CIS markets. In terms of the segmentation, after 5 years of a disappointing performance, when the bag equipment market segment clocked at a negative CAGR of more than 1%, the sector is expected to experience a slight recovery, However, these is not it's still enough to achieve a positive CAGR between 2021 and 2026. Also, the impetus provided by a shift to palletizing in developing economies, especially in new large-scale greenfield projects, is expected to sustain an estimated increase at a CAGR of 1% for the next 5 years. The wrapping segment closely follows the trends of the palletizing market, as the two are normally clubbed together, and upgrades from other types of wrapping to stretch hood represents an opportunity for the segment at a global level, which is expected to see an increase in the next 5 years of around 1%. Meanwhile, the loading segment is only relevant in a few markets where palletizing and wrapping is very rare, and is therefore threatened by the growth of these two segments. On top of this, these two types of machines are only attractive to markets where labor is still inexpensive, and therefore for the next 5 years we expect a contraction of more than 2%. Now, I would like to end our webinar with some closing remarks. The first closing remark is that the global market size for cement bagging equipment is expected to decline at a CAGR of 1% for the next 5 years. Secondly, while bag fillers are expected to continue to account for the largest share of market, palletizers and wrappers are set to see an increase from the years of 2021 to 2026. The cement bagging equipment market varies widely from region to region, with some components being very prevalent in a certain region and virtually non-existent in others. Also, the rising labor costs and new safety rules may increase the market for automation, and the shift from 50 kilograms to 25 kilograms volume in bags in certain markets due to health and safety concerns may also create more demand for new equipment or upgrades in the existing equipment. And lastly, global ex-China as a market size is expected to see an increase from 2021 to 2026, boosted mostly by the Latin America and Middle Eastern markets. Okay, thank you so much. I would like to thank you on behalf of the CW Group for joining me and Wondersun on this webinar. And please feel free to reach out to us and if you have any questions. So thank you once again, and see you in our next webinar.